The answer is no. Over the last 20 years at least, average property prices have not doubled every 10 years. So if you're happy now, you've got the answer, please like and subscribe before you go. But if you're wondering why I say this at the end of this video, so do house prices double every 10 years? Well, actually, it depends on how savvy a property investor you are. Then watch on, because there is more to this than meets the eye. I've gone through all of the data from the land registry, and it's interesting to see. I'm going to go through how long it's taken the average house price in the UK to double in value and why you shouldn't rely on capital growth alone when investing in property. So if that interests you, make sure to watch the video till the end. Now, if you're new here, I'm William Gale, co-founder of British Home Buyers and British Home Sellers. And over the last 13 years of growing those businesses, as well as my own property portfolio, I'm always eager to dive into the data to understand more about property investing. The land registry tracks who owns what property and the prices they paid. So it's really the only place that can accurately answer this question. Here you can see a graph that shows average house prices across the United Kingdom between April 1968 and May 2023. We can clearly see it's been growing and growing and growing. But by how much? Well, I've created this table from that data to show on average how prices have increased over each 10-year period. You can see over the last 10 years, prices have increased 1.7 times, which is a 70% increase on average, which is not far off doubling. But then the 10 years before that, house prices only increased about 30%, which doesn't seem that great. But bear in mind, we did have the global financial crash over 2007-2008, which took a huge dent out of house prices. What is interesting is if you keep going back beyond that, house prices on average did increase by more than double. 2.4 times between 1993 and 2003, 2.2 times between 1983 and 1993, and it tripled between 1973 and 1983. So to be fair, house prices did at least double every 10 years, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but certainly not as an average over the last 20 years. But if house prices haven't doubled every 10 years recently, how long has it taken for them to double? Well, I've broken down that same data, but instead measured the time it has taken for prices to double. So it's fascinating to see that it's actually taken 19.2 years more recently for the average house price to double in value across the United Kingdom, which really surprised me. Now, before that, you can see the statement prices double every 10 years rings true. In fact, it is probably a bit of a conservative estimate looking at this, with it taking as little as 6 years from 1998 to 2004, which is probably what fueled the financial crash to begin with in 2007-2008. But in reality, in modern times, the notion of house prices doubling every 10 years shouldn't be relied on. The days of buying anything and that leading to guaranteed capital appreciation is a thing of the past. However, it doesn't mean there aren't some areas prices have doubled. As you can see, there are loads of areas where house prices as an average have doubled in the last 10 years, and a whole load more areas that have outperformed the average 70% increase over the last 10 years. The average house price growth is exactly that, an average. So there will be areas in the UK prices have grown by less than 70%, even places prices have actually dropped. For example, City of Aberdeen has seen prices drop 15% in the last 10 years. That is why it's so important to buy in growth areas where there is likely to be a growing demand for property. The more demand for property, the more likely it is prices will grow. At the same time, there are also areas where you can achieve higher rental yields than other areas. Rental yield is the rent you can charge as a percentage of the property value. The higher the yield, the better. At the end of the day, when you're buying a property, it's not only about capital appreciation, but also about the rental yield. How much rent can you charge a year per pound you're investing in that property investment? You can see there are some areas where the rental yield is really good, but also some areas that are really bad, like St Albans, for example, here. I live in St Albans, but I don't actually invest in any buy-to-let properties here. When it comes to investing wisely in property, yes, you can focus purely on the capital appreciation, but you also want to be overlapping it with strong rental yields so that you own a property investment that is growing in value, but that is also renting well so that it gives you good monthly rental profit. Finally, there are loads of other things that will affect whether your property investment will double in value or not outside of what we talked about. One, did you buy at a good price to begin with? Did you buy at below market value? If you buy at a discount, it has essentially gone up from the moment you own it. For argument's sake, if you bought a house for half price, it is doubled in value on day one because it is worth double what you paid for it. Now, it isn't realistic to buy at that sort of discount, obviously, but certainly realistic to buy at 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20% discounts even, which ultimately gives you a head start on capital appreciation from day one. And two, did you buy a property that you could add value to? For example, refurbish, build an extension, or split the titles on. For example, I bought my home in St Albans for £545,000. I extended it, I refurbished it, and it was then surveyed at a value of £950,000. A 75% increase, not in 10 years, but a year or so later. Now, yes, I had costs to do that work, but nonetheless, in a short period of time, I've had a lot of value outside of what I spent on the property. So, do house prices double every 10 years? Well, actually, it depends on how savvy a property investor you are. If you want to watch more videos like this one, subscribe to the channel, ask me any questions in the comments below, and I will answer them.